Hello everyone, welcome to the BI WizKid YouTube channel. So today I'm just going to go quickly over some of the main features that were released in the Power BI Desktop 2020 update. Now this is not all the features, this is just the main ones that we can all use. There are some that are premium, which I don't have premium unfortunately, so I can't show you those, but we'll have a quick chat about those and we'll look over some of the main ones that we can use straight away by enabling some of the preview features and other bits and pieces in the report. So we're going to get onto that straight away. Hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to go into my report. So the first thing, one of the main ones, I think you might have noticed was the personalized visuals. Now there's been some changes to the reports where now you can amend and update and personalize each individual sort of visual on the report. So let's say, for example, this is my crime hotspots that I just uploaded recently. I can go over to this personalized visual over here, and I can click on this option here and create and amend this sort of visualization type here. I select this and let's say, for example, okay, well, I don't like that graph. I want to change it to this graph here. Yep. And then say, okay, well, I don't want to view this unable to prosecute. I can then remove that field as well from there. So now I'm only seeing my crime types by a stacked bar chart. Okay. Now, at any point, if, for example, you know, we sort of get to a stage where, okay, let's add in the number of unable to prosecute there, that adds that option in there. We can then sort of say, well, we have the option to say, okay, well, let's revert back to the original report there as well. Okay, so we can apply to all these different visuals here. Go into here, let's look at a line graph. It's not really the right data for that visual, but users, you know, now have the ability to choose their own visuals. So a lot of the times, I think this has come around, you know, with users wanting to sort of almost see things in their own way. You know, some people see things better with different graphs or certain graphs and certain visualizations, and not always what the developer you know, has created. So this way you can personalize that view, create your own chart and update it and see it exactly as you want there. Okay, and once you have created it, so let's change this one again. So I'm going to change this to this stacked bar chart here, and then I'm going to remove this field here. Okay, and from last week's, we can then create a bookmark. Okay, so we can add a personal bookmark, and we can say this is my home page. Make that the default view, and then we can save that. So now every time you come into the report, you've now got your own personalized view of that data instead of the one that was originally published, without affecting anybody else's experience with that as well. Okay, now we can, again, like I said, we can sort of revert this back. So if we did want to revert back to the original, we can click on this visual, and then we've got the reset this visual option here, which will then turn it back to how it was before. Okay, now that's the user experience on the user side of things, but how do we set that up on the Power BI side of things? So let's go over to Power BI now, and we'll see how we can actually get that set up. Okay, so now with this being a sort of preview feature, we first have to go and switch it on in our options and settings. Okay, so we go into our options and settings, and there's a couple of things we need to do. So first thing we need to do is go into our preview features, and we need to highlight this and say, okay, personalize visual, switch that on. Okay. Secondly, we need to then go down to our report settings, and down at the bottom of report settings, we've got another option here that says personalize visuals allow. Okay, so this is switched off by default, and it won't be visible unless you click the preview features. So you'll have to click this one on to say, okay, personalize visuals, click OK, and then it'll ask you to restart. Once you restart, you'll have to come back into the report settings and then click on this personalize visual option here. Okay, and then we click OK to that. Now, as you click OK to that, again, the visual option will appear at the top of your visual here. Okay, now when you click on this, nothing will happen because this will only happen on the user experience end. But let's say, for example, okay, I've got this crimes by location, okay, but I don't want you know, any changes to happen to this particular graph. Now I can go over to my format option here. I can go down to where it says visual header, and visual header, if I scroll right down to the bottom, then I've got the personalized visual option here that I can switch on or I can switch off. So at the moment I switch it on, and then you see the little icon appears at the top there. So now users can now go and amend this on the front end. But if I don't want them to do that, I can switch that off, and then that will always stay as a map visual on the front end. Okay, so that's the way we can sort of switch that on and off for each individual visual there. Okay, so that's the way we do that. We go into our visual header option, and you can see we've got a number of options here where you can show and hide any of the sort of different icons we've got there. And one of the new ones we've got is the personalized visual option there. Okay, so that's the personalization visual that we have introduced in April 2020. Okay, so there was the Power BI were going to sort of release the automatic filter pane experience. So they were going to update everybody's reports this month to use the new filter experience, but they've delayed that now due to sort of obviously the current situation. They've delayed that, and they'll be rolling that out next month. So if you have got any reports that are still using the old filter experience, that will automatically change next month. So if you do have any reports using that, I'd go and change those just to make sure that it doesn't affect any of your reports. So that's the filter experience here, which will be automatically updated next month. Okay, so what else is new this month? So another thing that was new this month is that the themes. So if you go over to the themes, we have had themes in preview for the last sort of number of months, but now this is generally available. Now themes is great because we can go into a theme and we can use it, chop and change our view of our data however we want. So if we select different theme here, then it will apply and change as you wish. Okay, now whatever sort of current report or current theme you're working will appear at the top of your list there. Here, and let's say, okay, you've got your theme ready, but what you can do is then say, okay, well, I want to customize this theme. Now they've also made some changes to this to give you a bit of a better experience to get your branding and your colors for your company right. So let's say, for example, we've got your color options here. We can click on the drop down here, and now we've got 3 different ways we can select your colors. So we can use a color palette that you've got here. We've got the sort of different color palettes down here, and then we've got both the hex and we've got the RGB. So either generally when you have your marketing or your sort of branding guidelines within your company, it's probably usually got one or the other, and then you generally go online, try and get a converter from hex to RGB, etc., bring those back in and you know, update the color details on that. But now you've got all these options in here now, so you don't have to go and find that conversion. You can use the RGB here, or you can use the hex value there as well. So we can change the color. So let's, you know, we'll select a couple of different options here. So I'll select the green there, and then let's go over here and let's select a blue here as well. And then we can also go into advanced options, and we can change the different levels of elements that we want to do that as well. And if you want more information, you can go and have a look at that later on. That'll give you more detail on that. Additionally, we can go in and change all the details for text. So if you've got certain branding fonts that you have to use for your company, you can set those here. So every time you do create a new report or new visuals, the sort of font will be set to that particular font. And same with sort of titles, cards, KPIs. There are really sort of good sort of detailed options that you can go into here and update. We can also go into sort of visuals and page backgrounds and wallpapers as well. I don't know if you've noticed, if you've ever imported a background into a Power BI report, it comes in by default, it comes in with 100% transparency, which I've never understood why, but now you can sort of turn that off and say, okay, well, if I do import a background, I want it to be visible and not transparent. So that's something you can set there, you know, automatically as well. Okay, so plenty of different options there. Filter pane as well, you can colour the filter pane to make sure people do see that. Sometimes it does get lost with its simple grey colour, but we can go and change the background of that if we wish to as well. So we changed a couple of colours there. If we apply that, that will automatically apply that straight away and hopefully update some of the colours there. So now I've got that nice green that I updated that colour to. And we can go into even more sort of you know, detailed sort of you know, settings for reports, and that's done through the JSON file. But what we can do, we can save this theme as well as a template. So if we save that current theme, we save it out and then save it as a JSON file, and then that'll be available to then go and edit in a text editor and go into a bit more detail there. So that's been around for a little while, but this month it was made generally available, so that should be bug free, shall we say. Okay. Okay, so another feature that was released this month was the Lasso Select. Now, the Lasso Select is just in preview as well. Again, you'll have to go into your options and settings to enable that. But essentially, what I used to do to select each individual, I used to control select each of these visuals here. Okay, but now what I can do is I can sort of lasso select all of these like this. Okay, now it is a little bit buggy. I have tried to sort of use it, but again, you know, it is in preview, so there will be sort of a few bugs. So if I sort of try and select it like this, it won't work. So as you can see, it's not selected anything. You do have to sort of cover everything and the whole visual with the lasso, and then it will select those visuals there. So if it just touches on another graph, so as you can see, I'm just sort of halfway going over some of these, it's not selecting it, and until I sort of cover the whole visuals, and then it will select the ones that are fully lassoed, you know, with this tool here. Okay, so let's say, for example, up here, I want to sort of lasso all these. I can still control, select, and unselect once I've done that as well, and then I can still go into my options over here, and I can say, okay, well, let's reduce the size of these visuals here, and then I can also amend the category all at the same time as well by doing a lasso select. Okay, so that's a new lasso feature that's coming. I'm sure there'll be some additional changes to that coming up in the next sort of couple of months as well. But if you do have feedback on that, please give that to Microsoft, and they'll I'm sure they'll get onto any of that. Okay, so that was the Lasso Select. Another feature that was updated or brought into Power BI this month was the conditional formatting for matrix tables. So I'm just going to switch this visual here. I'm just going to switch this to a matrix table, and let's have a look. Let's push this across over here. Okay, and I'm going to put in a couple of extra fields. So I'm going to get my month, put it into columns. Okay, and then I've got my number of crimes. Okay, so I've got my crime types and I've got my months and I've got my totals here. So for the sort of default setting, or the normal sort of conditional formatting, always formatted the values that were here. We could never sort of format the totals. So now let's see if we go into our crimes and click on conditional formatting, go to our background color. We're going to set a couple of rules here. So I'm going to do this on a rule based on crime types. So I'm going to say if it's greater than, let's just do minus 1,000 by 50,000, and is less than, let's see what number, 2,000. Okay, and then we're going to set that to red. I'll add a new rule. Let's say it's greater than or equal to 2,000 and less than 50,000. A big arbitrary number there. And we'll click on green. And now we've got this option here at the top that says apply to values only, apply to values and totals, or we can apply to totals only. So if we apply it to values, change that to number, click OK. So we can see that this one applies the colors to just the values. If we go back into the conditional formatting, the background color, we can then say, actually, you know what, I want this on both values and totals. And then that will apply the value to the totals as well. Okay, so what we can do additionally is say, okay, well, the conditional formatting that I want to set to the total only, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger, so let's have a look at these total values here. So we're looking at, let's use 5,000. So 5,000, and we'll use 5,000 there. And we'll apply that to the totals only. So we only want to see the ones that are greater than 5,000. So we can see all of these are greater than 5,000. So now what we can do is then go in here, excuse me, add some additional formatting, but this time we're going to do the font color. We're going to apply the font color. Okay, and let's just do a color scale this time. And this time we're going to say the lowest value. Actually, now let's go to the rules. We'll add the rules again. This time we'll apply the same one, so minus 50,000, 5,000, number. This time, because it's in the individual, we're going to apply it to the values only. We'll just look at the ones that are 1,000. And we'll set that to red. We'll apply a new rule. We'll apply 1,000 to there, and then 50,000 to that. Give that green. Change it to number, and then click OK. So now we can sort of mix and match both sort of formatting options there. We've now got a color scale of our fonts for our values, our individual values, but then our sort of total values we've now color scaled on a different level for a different value as well. So that was one of the updates that was brought out this current month as well. Okay, so the last one, or one of the main ones that I wanted to cover here was the sort of Q&A. Okay, so at the moment Q&A, I don't know if many people use Q&A, but I think a lot of users, or they struggle to use a Q&A because it's either it's not intuitive enough, or it doesn't understand what they're saying, or they don't know what to sort of type in the Q&A. So for example, if I double click here, it gives me some options here. Try one of these to get started. Okay, great. But let's say we want to suggest a few of our own. Okay, so what we can do in here is go into our Q&A setup, and that's just through this little cog here. So you get your Q&A up and you click on this cog option here, and you've got a number of different options to set with Q&A. So you've got your review questions. You can teach Q&A. You can manage some of the terms that are being taught or being used in the company, or you can also suggest some of your own. Now this is the new feature that's coming here, so we can sort of say, okay, well, let's suggest a couple So we can say count of crimes by crime type as bar chart. Okay, so if we put that there, then on the right hand side you can see it's given us a visual or preview of what that might look like, and then we can say, okay, yep, let's add that. Okay, so count of crimes by crime type as bar chart. Okay, and then what we can also say is, let's have a look, let's change this to the count of crimes by outcome category. Okay, and then as clustered bar chart. Yep, so we can also, let's have a look, count of street crimes. Excuse me. It gives you options as you go through here, so you can set these. So let's say, okay, we'll add that as well. And as you add them in order, you can save that. Okay, and then we'll come back out of here. And then if you give it a second, we'll restart this visual. So now each time someone goes into a Q&A, those questions that you've suggested are the first ones to sort of show up. Then we can click on one of those and say, okay, yeah, count of crimes as bar chart, and then turn that into a visual. And then that's the visual that they can go on and then use in their reports. Okay, so this way you can sort of give some suggestions to the user as to, you know, what sort of things you can ask, what sort of things you can say, what sort of you know, questions you can ask Power BI, because a lot of the time users don't know, unless they're given sort of training, they don't know you know, what can be what's possible with the Q&A. But this way we can sort of suggest a few questions there. We can ask this, you can show it as a bar chart, you can show it as a different visual, you can select the different measures that are available, and also the different dimensions that are available in the Power BI report as well. Okay, so there are some other features. Excuse me. There's been some minor changes to the decomposition tree. The tooltips have now appeared in the decomposition tree. So whereas before there was no tooltip, but now there's a tooltip option in there. And some more premium features that I won't be able to show today, but an auto page refresh, which is based on sort of direct connections to your source. Just one more change, or one more update, is the new sort of relative time filter. So when you add in a visual which is based on time, so I'm just going to add in my month over here, we've got our options that you can change. Now we have a relative time filter here, so we can change relative time, and we can select either the last 1, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, etc. And dependent, I guess this goes in hand with the automatic data refresh that they sort of published as well. So the idea is that as the data automatically refreshes, as your data changes, and you set this time filter to every 1 minute, then you should see your sort of data changing real time as it sort of moves along. So that's the sort of idea or the sort of scenario that would be used in. Okay. Thank you very much. Hope that was okay. Ben, I'll pass back to you, and I'll take any questions if there are any on the Q&A.
Thanks, Sheb. So I think we've got the Q&A pretty much nailed. I want to ask you a question, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, this personalized visuals piece, I think visuals are, you know, certain visuals have a specific role. You know, certain things you would use a stacked column chart for, others you might use a cluster column chart, others it may be best to show that as a horizontal, you know, bar chart, as I would call them. What are your thoughts on actually just allowing people to change those visuals?
So I always think that we should, as Power BI developers and professionals, we should know the best visual to use for that data. And when we design reports, or when you design reports, I'm sure you make sure that that's the case. Now, it is sometimes, you know, happens that you have execs, you have managers that say, well, actually, you know, I want a bar chart, I want a pie chart, and sometimes you just can't sort of get past get past that. And I guess this sort of you know, covers that sort of scenario. And if people are able to view reports or data better in a different way, then so be it. You know, it's down to each individual. You know, it's down to each their individual preferences. But the good thing is that they can keep it for their personal view. It doesn't affect you know, everyone else. And if it helps them sort of understand the data, you know, better, then you know, it's a win-win. But generally, you know, we should as developers be creating sort of the right visual for that data instance.
I got you. Yeah, so I kind of agree. What you're really saying is we know best.
Putting it in the nice way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thanks for that, Shep.